class, stay here, not like.
And welcome everyone to the very first episode of 90 Day Fandom. I'm your host, Clark, on the check-in. This is my first time, so be gentle. I'm by myself solo hosting, and I just want to say I'm really super excited to talk about 90 Day Fiancé, everything about it, give my own perspective about it. Maybe it might be a little crazy because you know what? I'm a crazy guy, but you know what? I'm excited about 90 Day Fiancé, and I hope the folks that want to, listen to this channel and check me out are excited, just as excited to check out 90 Day Fiancé, the fandom world on my channel. So, without further ado, let me start off by saying my name's Clark once again. Let me introduce the channel. Welcome to the House of Fandom. We do everything in the fandom world. So, we've got movie fandom with our show House of Fandom. We've got sports fandom with Townley Sports. And now, the first ever show for 90 Day Fiancé, all 90 Day Fiancé. It's going to be called 90 Day Fandom, and I'll be your host, Clark. So hopefully you'll give me some slack that it's my first time, break me in here while I, talk everything 90 Day Fiancé. I'm super excited. I know there's a huge fandom of 90 Day Fiancé fans just like myself. And so, you know what? I'm super excited to talk to all of you guys. So, without further ado, let me start off by talking to you a little bit about today's episode of the Happily Ever After 90 Day Fiancé episode. Starting off with, I just love talking about her. Everyone's favorite chain smoking, baby toting grandma, Angela, and her usual raunchy self, and along with her buddy, her hubby over there, Mike. Mike is crazy too. So to start off, let me just bring out that Angela, of course, kicks things off by talking about being 54 years old and needing to get gastric sleeve for her health. Although she should be more worried about all the 10-pack-a-day cigarettes that she works through, but that's another whole thing. But anyway, later on in the episode, we catch up with Angela's love, Michael. So Mike talks about his ticket to America being on hold. And he's more worried about, the fact that the coronavirus has delayed the entire process for his 90 Day Fiancé, his thing to get over here to America. Anyway, moving right along, we talk about, again, Angela's weight loss surgery and how it's against his wishes, and he's talking to his sister, and now his sister starts complaining about the money being spent on the weight loss, because why couldn't they spend it on having to, hire someone to tote her baby? Remember that? She wants someone to, pay the money to tote, okay? Not to lose the weight. But, you know what? The sister's like, I wish you would have gotten a Nigerian girl. It would have been better. She's younger. This lady's 54 years old, yada, yada, yada. We know the whole drill, right, with his family. So anyway, the bottom line is that when we leave that portion of the show, it goes right into, again, Angela talking a little bit more about how excited she is, but a little nervous about the weight loss surgery. She complains about Michael, blah, blah, blah. Michael not being, there, not being supportive. But here's the interesting thing. She says, in her perspective, that Michael is worried more about her losing all that weight and looking good and finding herself another man here in America, perhaps, or somewhere else. And, that's probably why he doesn't want her to lose weight. Now, what she says next is typical Angela. So she goes, and listen, I'm going to quote this here, right? But let's just remember, it's not coming from me. But, she gives him that pep talk, right? She's talking to Mike, and she's like, don't worry, baby. I got you. Remember, my vagina fits within your penis fits in my vagina like a glove. And so we move on, and then, she's talking all that crazy stuff. But she gives him that pep talk, and, again, she gives him a pep talk, talks about how, their love is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and that to find a penis that fits into her vagina like a glove is just a 1 in a million chance. Okay. Anyway, as we move right along, Angela's seen, getting, ready to go to Beverly Hills to get that weight loss surgery, and she's super excited because you know what? She wants to be a sexy Mima, right? Okay. The only voice of reason here is her daughter Skylar, and she's filmed basically saying what everyone else is thinking, and that's I really hope that she can, hold this in and keep it in, meaning the weight loss surgery, and not chain smoke and not overeat, binge eat, whatever. So she's thinking what we're all thinking, because really more concerned about the nasty cigarette habit, because that's just a whole other thing. Anyway, as we move right along, bam, she gets that whole pretty woman treatment. Pretty woman, yeah, yeah, yeah. Going down Rodeo Drive, blah, blah, blah. She's all excited. She's talking to the Uber driver. She's like, yeah, I'm going to lose all this weight, blah, blah, blah. And she's super, super, super crazy excited, right? And, she gets a little wake-up check from her doctor's office, the surgeon's office, saying, yeah, you got to make sure you're not smoking. But we all know right at the airport, she was smoking, saying how much it felt so good smoking that cigarette. Now, I don't know about you. I'm concerned that she's not going to be able to stop smoking cigarettes, although I do hope that she does for her health, first and foremost. Anyway, so as we move on from Angela, because, at that point, it goes back and forth within the episode, we go right into everyone's favorite lumberjack and everyone's favorite crazy eyes. Okay? Another Mike, and Natalie. What to say about Mike and Natalie that everyone hasn't already known from various sources? But let's be honest here. When we catch up on these two heartbreakers over here, these two love-hate relationship, we get that beautiful recap that turns dark pretty quickly and reminds us of how batshit crazy that whole union or relationship, marriage, or whatever you want to call it, really is. But Mike, of course, talks about getting married, shotgun wedding style, of course. He thinks it's a little too fast. We all know that. This is not a marriage made in heaven, my dears. This is definitely not a marriage made in heaven. But anyway, as we move forward in the show, they're seen at this like mystical crystal shop, and right before that, they go to the Motel of Love. Forgot about that. So they're at the Motel of Love, and he's, talking to her, and she's complaining as usual. Basically her campaign of aggression and complaining about the fact that he doesn't have a wedding ring yet, which, let's be honest, he wasn't planning on marrying her, but that's another story. So you know what ends up happening? They go to a little mystical shop, like I was telling you about the crystals, and they're seen there chilling, and then just looking for a ring and talking about all this stuff, and she's talking about her religious beliefs. And then that brings us to Mike, who of course talks about that we're all from aliens, and that we're space dust, and all this batshit crazy stuff. But it continues on and on. Bottom line is, she wants him to get that ring to show and prove how important their love really is. Well, later on after that, we get the usual, Mike looking like he's a hostage, being filmed by the 90 Day Fiancé producers about, discussing the wedding ring or what have you. And then, at that point, they're in a restaurant. They're talking about going to Mama's house, which is Mike's mom's house, which we all know how Mike's mom loves Natalie. Yeah, no. And having Thanksgiving, and then she's just like, I don't know if I want to go, but if you want to go, whatever. And then they go on and on and on, and then they move forward, and the episode moves on to, how can I forget these two heartbreakers? Hold it, wait for it. Then it jumps right into, everyone's favorite Moldovan, Conan the Barbarian, Mr. Andres. How could we forget Andres? And, of course, his long-suffering wife, Lisbeth. But as they talk about these two lovers, we get flashbacks of the Moldova wedding, along with, of course, the cringe moments of Andre talking about how effective he is, and how he's, got a realtor's license, and he's going to basically, scare potential property owners into purchasing property with his charming personality, I'm sure. Anyway, we move along, and then he talks about hitting up the godfather of the family, the daddy Warbucks of the family, Chucky Boy, for 100 G's. This guy's going right for the moon. 100 G's. You gotta love his Conan energy. Well, later on, Conan, aka Andre, has a sit down with Don Daddy Warbucks, and he starts to attempt to strong arm. Well, whatever. He just basically says, Chuck, are you going to give me 100 grand? And Chuck is like, hell no. I'm not going to give you any money. I was just hoping that you were going to be basically my ranch hand or whatever the hell else he wanted him to do. Cleaning up houses, flipping houses. Excuse me. So at that point, Chuck's like, look, you're not getting 100,000. You're not going to get 100,000 from me. You're not going to get 10,000 from me. You're not going to get $1 from me until you improve at your respect and you prove your worth, basically is what Chuck's saying. But Andre, you know how he is. He's just basically like, so does this mean you'll give me the money? Chuck is like, look, I'm going to do what's best for the family. So what he says to him is this: let's do this trial. I'm going to talk and have a sit down with the rest of the family. And of course, Andre is like, why you have to talk to them? I don't like my brother-in-law. He ruined the wedding, blah, blah, blah. And then Chuck's like, I got to do what I got to do. Okay, fine. Then we move on from that couple. And we go to these two charmers. Brandon, everybody's favorite American mama's boy, and his lovely mail-order bride. Anyway, as we move forward into the episode, these two heartbreakers start talking about these two lovely, charming parents there. And their whole controlling, and basically, Brandon always feels like he's torn between both of them. In between that, we're getting the moments of hugs and of course the complaining and the recaps of her, lovely Julia or whatever, as she basically works at the sweatshop, family farm. Okay. And then, Brandon, of course, continues his campaign of complaining about being in the middle of his parents and Julia's constant power struggle to get complete control over him. And, of course, the precious, precious boy, Brandon, whatever. So Brandon talks about his new job. So he's super excited about that. Congrats, Brandon. And then he talks about them heading over to Vegas to celebrate, which, of course, Julia's like, heck yeah. Get me out of this freaking place. I don't want to be in freaking the middle of West Virginia. Get me to freaking Vegas where I can party and have a great time. All right. So then they see, of course, the parents who are, of course, tending to the pigs. I knew I shouldn't have done that. And, of course, they say, hey, can you give us a hand with the slop? And they're like, yeah, nah. We're going to the airport. We're getting the heck out of Dodge. We're going to Vegas, okay? So they're just like, we're out of here. The parents, of course, you know how shady they are. As soon as he leaves, they start complaining and bitching about the fact that, he was so different. He was so much more stronger. And, ever since he came into the picture, they're just commiserating, you know what I mean? About how much of a pansy their son has turned out. Ever since Julia came into the picture. Now that Julia is the new boss of the family as it pertains to their son. But anyway, I digress. But near the end of the show, we're treated to this whole Vegas, Julia's feeling like Anastasia, the princess from, Russia over here in Vegas. And she's saying, I want to live here and I just want to get out of there. And I want to move off from cleaning pig shiz and living in the farm. And then the conversation drifts back and forth about Brandon's controlling mother and, who's going to be, the victor of being in control of Brandon's life. Okay, this is the whole story. I'm not even bullshitting you. This is really legit, the whole conversation. Anyway, I know I'm rambling. Listen, I apologize. This is my first ever episode of 90 Day Fandom, so I'm trying to get used to being a solo one. I would definitely appreciate doing a live. Once we get the audience to do that. So I think that I like that interaction and that whole like going back and forth with the people in the chat. So moving on once again, we get to the last couple of the day. How could I forget these two? I know you're not going to forget them. We are treated to, of course, Kulani and Asuelo. Kalani, I love you, man. I love you. Kalani. Poor Kalani. It has to be hard raising 3 kids. It really does. Because, when we are brought back to their lives, she's out there with a realtor. They're looking at a house. Really nice new house. And, of course, as she's talking to the realtor like an adult, Asuelo is his usually baby boy self on the bed of the house, acting up with the kids, messing up the stuff. We all know that this is actually, this is a house that's being shown, but you know what? It's Asuelo. He likes to, do his thing, so let him do his thing, right? Well, during that whole period of time, we get highlights of Asuelo's gangsta family. Let's not forget them. And all the cringeworthy moments of the last season. His sisters and the mom harassing for money, threatening to break legs, crack people over the head with bottles unless they get the money, the G-note, whatever it is that they wanted at that time. The normal in-law stuff. Right. Afterwards, we head over to Casa del Kalani's parents, and we get footage of Kalani and her mom and the boys in the kitchen, and then it drifts off to a conversation she has on video chat with the big sister, Kulini, who we all know is like, Kardashian, whatever you want to call it, version, and lives in California. And, they're just chit-chatting and they're talking about, how she was looking at houses. And, of course, the sister gives the old rolling of the eyes. She constantly rolls the eyes, gives that nervous laughter, like, why are you even doing this? And then we continue to, to hear the banter till it gets to the point where the sisters like bonding together about a potential divorce party thing. And this is hilarious because they're both talking about it, and they're also talking about her having an extended stay, coming to the crib to live basically, in the same roof with, Kalani, the kids, and of course, Asuelo. Now, we all know from past seasons, Asuelo does not get along with anybody in the family. And frankly, I don't blame them for not getting along with him either. Because they have to deal with his bullshit, and then he has to deal with their bullshit. But mostly they're going to deal with his bullshit. So it goes back and forth. But kicking things off, like, bam, explosive episode. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. I give it a B, solid B. We haven't been introduced to the other couples, but, it looks to be exciting. Another great season of Happily Ever After. But, my thoughts as I look at the couples, to be honest with you, I'm most interested in, where Michael and Angela end up. Michael has been thirsty to get to the United States. He wants to get to the United States so bad. And frankly, I feel like he's earned it. He's earned it because you know what? I legitimately think he loves this woman. And I believe she loves him too. Now, that being said, she's a gangster. Angela is a straight up intergalactic gangster. We all know she is a complete control freak. So the fact is that she can flip out on any moment. So now that she's going to get this weight loss surgery, she's losing that weight, which, by the way, she has lost quite a few pounds. And I do want to point that out. Congratulations to her. As you can see in the picture right here, she is looking way different. And, she went from, I think she was like 273 pounds to where she's at right now. Congratulations for her. A lot of people, myself included, we struggle with weight. We want to see, her be her best self, what makes her happy. That's most important, right? And if it's going to give her the confidence she needs to, to go through life as well as be healthy, great. Frankly, focus on losing the cigarettes. That's really what I'm worried about for you, because you have a serious chain smoking habit. So hopefully she will do that. And then as we move along, Natalie and Michael, I was really worried that someone was going to get murdered on the last season of whatever I saw with them, but leading up to the wedding and everything. I really thought there was going to be a straight up murder. Either she was going to pull a fatal attraction on him or he was going to kill her. God forbid. I would never want that to happen. But those two are like oil and vinegar. We all know that. Now, Andres, otherwise known as Conan from Moldova, and his long-suffering wife, Lisbeth, those two, there's always going to be some issues because her family can't stand Andres. Now, they may grow to eventually love him, but man, Andres, it's hard to love you, bro, because you know what? You're so alpha-ish, and you always got to be in control of things. And you know what, bro? There's going to become a time in your life that you just have to release a little bit and allow people to help you. And be humble, my man. Be humble. Anyway, that's just my rant for him. Then as we move along to, of course, Julia and Brandon. Brandon, bro, you have to break free of the parents, your parents. You got to focus on your marriage. You need to focus on being independent. Don't mean you leave your parents altogether, right? Obviously, your parents love you, but they're also very controlling, and they're also gangsters too, okay? They want you to stay in the farm. They want you to keep the farm in the family. They want you to be farmhands. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be a rancher or whatever you want to be. I know that's not what you want to be. So just think about what's going to make you happy and your wife happy and find the balance, okay? But of course, don't forget your parents, because your parents there's only two parents you'll ever have in your life, and those two love you. Clearly they do. Your mama's a little too much sometimes, but having lost my mom, to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind having, mom dote on me like your mom does to you. Anyway, I digress. Moving on. Asuelu and Kalani. Kalani. You have 3 kids. It has to be tough. And you have an older kid who's going through his terrible twos, meaning trying to be an adult. I don't know what to say other than, I don't know. I don't live your life, but I really hope that Asuelu becomes more accustomed to, being an adult, being a father figure to his kids, meaning not just being a friend, but like really being a dad, and not have you do all the work. That's straight gangster that he makes you do everything. I feel for you. I really do. But also, that being said, you can't just keep letting him get away with things. So I'm hoping to see in this season some real changes in these relationships. We've got a lot to talk about throughout the season. I'm going to get better. For those of you watching this, you know what? This is warts and all, right? It's my first time doing a 90-day fandom episode. So I appreciate the fact that if you're still listening, that you've gotten a few laughs out of it. And hopefully you'll stick around and subscribe to House of Fandom. We're excited. We just came out in the middle of December. It's been a passion of mine to get in front of the camera and just talk about just my love of all things fandom. So in this case, it's 90 Day Fiance Fandom, and I love that. There'll be more shows that'll cover not just the 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After, but all the different shows, especially the ones that are now on Discovery Plus. So I definitely look forward to bringing you all the crazy stuff, meaning, good old Ed and his craziness and all those characters out there too in those couples. So for those of you that have just joined me, my name's Clark, and I'm on the check-in for 90 Day Fiance. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for watching the channel. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please like, subscribe. And you know what? Stick with us because we've got more to talk about in all things 90 Day Fandom. Again, have a great day, and I look forward to entertaining you guys in the future. Peace.